Hello, welcome back everybody. Let's have a look at some of these charts then since the drop that we had last night, which wasn't massive, but it was, it's quite telling as to what's likely to happen in the future really for Bitcoin. That'll be the short-term future anyway. So I'm not a financial advisor, it's not financial advice. So let's start by looking at the Bitcoin dominance chart. So the Bitcoin dominance chart had this little drop here, and it's only a little drop. Let's put it into context. A little drop, but breaking what I would consider to be a support area. So because we broke that support, it's reasonable to assume that we might come back down a little further over time. This depends on how alts seem to be reacting to Bitcoin's slow and steady decline now. Bitcoin still has a chance to work its way back up in value, but like I've been saying for a while now, I think the overall trend is down, and we might find some pumps along the way with Bitcoin, but we might see a little pump today. But generally, I would expect that we're going to carry on with this slow and steady, like walking off a plank situation that Bitcoin's got going on until we break. We'll look at Bitcoin later, but I'll probably say about 9,600 area needs to break, and then we will really start to see some heavier moves. We'll look at the total market cap here for altcoins excluding Bitcoin, and again this is also coming down, and it's going to come back down, I would say, to test this level of support here around 65. So it's too early to call for any kind of alt season. I don't expect we'll see an alt season until around November-ish, maybe even later. You'll have to watch my previous videos to see why I think that. I still think that, despite Bitcoin coming down in its dominance chart. So let's have a look at Bitcoin itself. So here we are on the daily chart. Daily indicators look like it still wants to come down. Clearly still wants to come down actually, and 4-hourly would suggest that, so it's the first time I've really looked at it, also coming down today. What we're looking at really is heavy resistance around this area now of around about 10,100. We'll call it 10,150 because that that resistance is actually going to decrease actually over throughout the rest of the day. Actually, it's going to get a little the resistance will be getting higher and higher. Not so much a big deal because it's still relatively decent resistance. There will be an area around about 3 o'clock actually. If it were to try and make a move at that point, then there is a chance actually it could try and recover actually. But it's still unlikely. But yeah, there is an opportunity for it to recover at this moment in time, but it's currently looking unlikely. What I would say though is that yes, this blue box area has been tested. It's not actually been completely broken to the down, and only when we actually make lower lows than this area. So I said 9,600, which is this area here, but really I would probably say we need to get a lower low than we had on this previous occasion. So that's going to be coming back down to around 9,300. That will pretty much solidify its doom. And what I said on my previous video, if you haven't watched it, is that we did have a death cross. We almost had this golden cross, which would have helped it move up, but it didn't. So the death cross took place over here. Price action at the time was here. So usually a 35% move down from a point of a death cross is what we expect, and that would actually bring us to the value of around about 6,700, 6,800, 6,700 area, which sounds shocking when you say it, because we were not so long ago all the way up here at just peaking at 14,000. So yeah, it's not completely out of the areas of expectation to say that figure for it to break 7,000. And to be honest with you, if you look at the altcoin situation, you will have seen a lot of coins do exactly the same from their all-time high. They will have decreased by half, and some even more than that. So yeah, why wouldn't Bitcoin do that? This is a parabolic run. After a parabolic run, you have you certainly should expect pullbacks and consolidations, and that's what we're having now. Just don't forget where we started from at the beginning of this year. We started all the way down here, 3,500, even lower than that, 3,200. So I mean, that was one hell of a move. So to consider this, it's a pullback from that level, still really that's it's big, but it's still a baby step. To come back down to around about this level here would be, you can't imagine that. But to come down to this area here, that's not completely out of the realms of possibility. And when you stand back and look at the chart, it makes a lot more sense when you see that, from the bigger picture. So, yeah, it would be a big drop. It would be relatively nasty, but it's not the end of the world. We need consolidation. We need pullbacks in order to recover. So let's just get it done and dusted, shall we? Let's just accept it for what it is, and move on from it. It's not retracing. If you were, involved in this from, like I was from ages ago, you would expect to see this sort of thing. So, let's not worry so much about it. It's all part of the game. Let's have a look at Matic then. So Matic, obviously we like this coin on this channel, and Matic is a new coin, so we don't have that kind of chart history to go by. All we have is what we've got, which is not a great deal, and this is the chart in its entirety. So, let's have a little look at what we're likely to expect. There's a few things on the horizon for Matic. There's a possible Coinbase listing, there's a possible Binance US listing, but first things first, we've got Binance closing for US customers, I believe at tomorrow, or definitely in the next 48 hours, which would generally mean that the majority of Matic's buying sentiments will be locked away, because Binance is used all around the world, but there's a very large portion of that is being used in the US, and unless people want to hold their Matic, which I would probably do that myself, it's likely to take a bit of a knock. Now you could argue that that Binance closing down its doors to US customers has actually been priced in. And if so, that's actually relatively positive, because what we had here, and we're looking at a chart similar to the way the Bitcoins worked really. We had a parabolic top, we had consolidation, we had incremental steps down, and found what could be considered a new low, an all-time sort of new low really, before we started to make moves up again. Now this move was based simply off the back of that Coinbase announcement. But it actually did okay for itself to try and make more runs and not come down to its all-time low, which was this level here, 80 Satoshis. Since then, it's continued to consolidate after this run, failed to break its first FOMO run, you could call it really, and is bouncing around at this level here of around about 120 Satoshis to 130 Satoshis, and are kind of peaking now at 140 Satoshis, which appears to be a resistance level for it actually now. What we are expecting is again another dump. Once we receive that dump, then it would be a good opportunity to buy it up again, because I wouldn't imagine that once that dump is finished, that would probably be the lowest you'll pick up a coin like this in this market, where we're looking to find all coins, including Bitcoin and altcoins, start to make a new recovery sort of towards the end of this year and beginning of next. So realistically, this would be a decent price. Sort of give it a few days, see where that dump takes it, perhaps maybe a few weeks to be safe, and then perhaps strike while the iron's hot. Now that's if you have the opportunity. I know there are other exchanges that US customers should have access to, and I suppose you could set up accounts with the VPNs and all this, that and the other. But generally speaking, in the grand scheme of things, with a coin like Matic, even at this price before the expected dump, this is this little run here will look like a little blip in the ocean in the coming years. It's not gonna. It's barely going to register when you look at the chart as a whole. But if you're looking to make short-term gains and trade this one, on a daily basis, then perhaps just wait a little while, see what happens over the next few days once that US situation plays out, really. But one thing I would say is that if you're not going to have access to buying Matic and you're waiting for something like a Coinbase listing, you know, you want to have your finger on the trigger on Coinbase, because if it does get listed and you don't have access to Matic on Binance and you've sold your Matic off, you'll probably be kicking yourself, because I would imagine at least a 2 to 3x on its value at that point. Right, so let's have a little look at one of my new favourites, which is EOS, and it's only my new favourite because it seems to be one of the stronger altcoins, leading the charge when it comes to showing us what alts are prepared to do in this environment, with Bitcoin making its retracement in its Bitcoin dominance. So it did make decent moves. We'll look at it on a smaller chart. We'll look at it on a 4-hourly chart. So it did make decent moves, and it started to consolidate as a result of that decent move, which is fine. That's what we expect, something like this to come back down again to test. What I would say is that we've still probably got a little further to go on the Satoshi levels. I would actually, we've already tested it here and bounced from it, so perhaps this was its bottom here, 3,677. When I say bottom, it's bottom of its recent run. I still think this has got a little further to go in it. Let's have a look on the Tether pairing. So the run has actually been pretty constructive, and we're actually doing pretty well for ourselves on this guy here. Probably coming back down to test this white 200 exponential, like we've tested it on this occasion. If we make a bounce from there, then we could be looking to make a sort of a run to a new high above $4, maybe $4.10 or maybe a little more. Still consolidating for this moment in time. All-time low resistance, very unlikely to come back down to where we were launched from. I think at this point, I think it's more than likely going to make a recovery. If not here, then around about here, which would be around $3.57. And then we'll find a pump. Now, the reason I'm looking at EOS, like I say, is that it seems to be the coin that moves first and all the other alts follow, similar to how Litecoin works before the halving event. So it might be an indicator of generally of how strong altcoins, you know, and I'm not talking about all of them. You know, things like XRP work on their own way. You know, they do their own thing. There's a few other coins that do their own thing, like T-Rex, I suppose. But generally, that, you know, the main sort of stronger altcoins, this might be the one to look at for its pioneering moves. And we'll see how this one reacts to the market before we make any rash decisions on things like Cardano, Litecoin, all those sort of things. Anyway, I will leave it with you there. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a nice day. Thanks for subscribing. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I hope you have a good day. Take it easy. Goodbye.